This has sparked some discourse on Twitter. Before I show that too much, maybe you guys all already saw it, but I wanted to ask before you saw his answer, what are some of y'all's favorite games of the 2020s so far? I'm curious. Just like, he gives a top 10, right? But you can just give one, you can just give however many come to mind as like your real like standout favorites of the 2020s so far. Blueprints and Ooh, Alan Wake 2. Minesweeper 2. Is that real? You're gonna make me Google this. A game made for a school assignment. Okay. Okay, we're memeing. We're memeing. Silk Song, Elden Ring, Void Stranger, Inscription, Kirby Air Riders, 14 Minesweeper variants, UFO 50, Half-Life Alyx, Caves of Cud, Balatro, Eugenics. Ain't shit come out since 2020. Tunic for you. Yeah, Tunic is up there for me. Pseudo Regalia. Matthew's list that everyone is shitting on. In my part of Twitter at least, everyone is shitting on this list in a way that really surprised me, okay? Like, let me just say, Matthewmatosis was the game critic for me for a long time. From 20 whenever I discovered his channel, 2012 or something, until like maybe 2017, whenever I branched out a little bit more. But and in that era, that wasn't even his best era, right? Like he got a lot better as a game critic. Like his thoughts got a lot deeper and more interesting about games, and his writing got a lot better in the kind of late era. But still, like, Matthewmatosis was the game critic for a long time. Like, I watched a lot of YouTube video essays in that era, those the kind of mid 2010s. Like, I was hungry. I was like, starting to understand and think about games more seriously myself at that time, right? And I was hungry for people thinking critically about games. And I was just so disappointed, right? I was consistently so disappointed by everything I could find on YouTube. Matthewmatosis was the one that I thought like really was clear headed about, and I don't, I'm not like fanboying. I'm not like a fanboy. I'm not like worshiping him or anything. Like, there are things that I think I understand about games a lot better than him at this point. There are things that I disagree with him about, but the bullying on Twitter is so crazy. And I think it's a solid list. Like, I think I really would like to see the top 10 of like everyone who is like saying that this is a terrible list. Like, if I had to nitpick this, I would say I'm not a big fan of Tears of the Kingdom. I think a lot of it is kind of a waste of time. I think it's not very dense with interesting stuff. It's a little too sandboxy, but I think it's a really interesting game, and that's kind of what he's saying. Like, he himself is caveating this here, right? Like, he's saying, I'm not saying it's flawless. Like, this almost reads like he knows that this is not, in some sense at least, it's not on par with the rest of, or with most of what he's going to list. But he's saying they're doing impressive things with those games, and I completely agree. I think it's very obvious that Nintendo is doing a lot more, like, they're doing experimental game design, right? They're doing experimental game design for the masses, but it is experimental game design. They're making a lot of really interesting decisions. And I've talked about that a little bit on Twitter and stuff, so I won't get too deep into that right now. But I consider it a valid pick, even though I did not like the game very much. 13 Sentinels, I actually want to revisit this one. I played a couple hours, and it's kind of an anime, almost visual novel kind of game. I can see how it might be the best of its kind, the best in its category. It's not for me, I don't think. I might give it another chance at some point, because I played a couple hours, and since then, people like Matthewmatosis and other people I know have recommended it as like, yeah, it is actually worth it. It pays off big time. It was not striking me as high quality in the first couple of hours. And it has this tacked on gameplay thing that I found to be a pain. Not a pain, just like, again, a waste of time. But 13 Sentinels feels like a totally respectable pick to me. I like Housemarque. I like that they are trying something new with Returnal. They're trying to appeal to the mainstream a little bit more, a lot more actually. They're trying to appeal to the mainstream more while doing something different. It seems to have had influence also, like, among, some smaller studios. I've seen other smaller studios doing Returnal-esque things since then. I think that's cool. So it's at least cool on that level, but I expect to enjoy it a lot. I've heard that there's DLC that's a little more hardcore and stuff. Blueprints I've already talked about a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up in my top 10 once I've actually played it. Brutal Orchestra, I've heard interesting things about. I have it on my Steam wish list. I'll play it at some point, but I don't actually know that much about it. It's like some kind of tactics roguelite or something. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, obviously I like a lot. very and is a very cool pick. And there's just nothing else like that out. There's nothing else like that that's come out since 2020. So like, how can you argue with that as a pick? Hyperdemon, same thing. How can you argue with that as a pick? Can of Wormholes. This is probably the pick that I would argue with the most. It's a valid pick from his perspective, right? But from my perspective, Can of Wormholes is kind of just Snakebird plus Pipe Push Paradise. It's kind of just two previously existing puzzle games, right? And the Pipe Push Paradise aspects are, I think, better executed in Can of Wormholes than in Pipe Push Paradise, but the Snakebird aspects are not nearly as well executed in my opinion. I love Snakebird, and Can of Wormholes didn't quite do it on that level, but I still enjoyed this game a lot. For me, I wouldn't make the cut because it's not as original. And there are other games that do parts of this better. Pizza Tower and Neon White, these two are not so much up my alley. These kind of execution heavy, routing and execution kind of game. It's just not my thing anymore. I do want to try both of these at some point because so many people have spoken highly about them, but they seem like obviously respectable picks. Like it's just crazy to me to start beef with this. Like, so like, yeah, like you can tell from me going through that, like a lot of this is not really my thing, but like, yeah, it just seems so crazy. Even Noida, he mentions Noida as well. Not really my thing, but they're just clearly all noteworthy games for like their kind of game. You think it'd be fine even if Matthew said his favorites were all normie slop? I don't know about that, but just I just want someone who, if you're a game critic, you're thinking seriously about games. I just want your list to reflect that in some way, and I want it to reflect your idiosyncrasies, right? I want you to have an opinion. I don't want you to just, yeah. I don't want it to sound like come across as signaling, and I don't want it to come across as like phoned in or just like an IGN top 10 list or whatever. But yeah, I just want it to be cool. I just want it to make sense. Like this makes sense to me as someone's taste in games since 2020. So I just can't imagine not respecting that. Who are the critics that surpassed Matt for me since then? I wouldn't say surpassed, just like doing a different thing. Like Frank Lance has written a lot about. He's not a full-time critic either. Like there's no full-time game critic that I think is better than Matthewmatosis. Like not even close. I mean, Sylvie has written a bunch of design docs about her games, and just yeah, random thoughts on that she puts on like a Google Drive somewhere. Yeah, you can find that somewhere probably. You can probably find that pretty easily. If you can't, ask me in the Discord and I'll find it for you. I subscribe to Boghog on Patreon. That's his stuff is very specific to arcade action games. But he does branch out more than some people. He branches out more than some people. My problem with these people with really narrow taste in games sometimes is that they just don't stay in their lane enough, right? They start talking about some really deep topic like puzzle games, right? They start talking about puzzle games despite having no experience with puzzle games. And it just really annoys me. They're just very dismissive. So yeah, I don't have a problem with someone with someone like Boghog, who seems to do a good job of talking about the stuff that he actually knows about. And he does know about arcade action games. He has a much deeper understanding of that than I do. And so that's a valuable perspective for me. I will say his writing is a little bit thrown together. It's a little bit it's hard to follow sometimes. It's not exactly like carefully written to be as easy to follow as possible. But if you're interested in, new game design ideas, especially like if you're a game developer, I recommend Boghog's Patreon. Yeah, maybe that's it. But yeah, none of those I would say like surpassed Matthew, like especially like as a generalist, right? Like understanding all types of games. I think Matthew is kind of unsurpassed at what he does. Electric Underground, I watch his videos. I don't watch all his videos, but I get value out of a lot of his ideas. And he has a perspective, and I respect his perspective, but I will say he's totally this type of thing that I was just talking about. Like he needs to be a little bit less dismissive of the things that he doesn't like. He's very closed-minded. And sometimes his thinking is not as clear as I would like for it to be. Like, with Matthewmatosis, you really get the sense that he has really considered, and his theoretical points, they make sense, and they are grounded, and they are considered from all angles in a way that sometimes when you watch Mark from the Electric Underground, if you really start to think about some of the things that he says, I think I've reacted to some of his one of his videos on stream before while I was doing speed runs. Like they don't totally hold up. They don't totally hold up, and often it's more obvious if you've played other kinds of games, right? And so yeah, you know, maybe you could argue that for his taste, it does make more sense or whatever. But he does frustrate he frustrates me a lot sometimes. But yeah, I'm not trying to beef with anyone. I do enjoy his videos more than almost anyone out there on game design. Do I know the Game Over Analyzer? Is he the one who does more like theory stuff and like citing papers and things like that? Yeah, I feel like I got a little bit of value out of one or two of his things once, but sometimes you get so theoretical and like high level and like not about a specific game or a specific type of game that it becomes just head in the clouds, like metaphysical type of stuff. Like, you know, it's the same reason I'm not very interested in philosophy. There's a certain sense that you need to develop, or maybe it seems like some people just have this innately, like a sense of valuing groundedness in discussions and like an intuition for when a discussion is getting too head in the clouds, like not really connected to reality. That's kind of the impression that I got from his videos from what I remember, but it is interesting. Like it's cool that someone's doing that angle. That's something that was good about Matthewmatosis for a long time. Like he really for a long time focused on a specific game at a time. And I think once you've done that for long enough, you can start to generalize a little bit more, but it's just dangerous to make like too many generalizations and like really high level abstract claims about games as a whole, you know? Like this is what's good for games as a whole. I don't know if I should even get into my top 10 games of the 2020s list. You guys probably know what games I like. But I'll read it through really quick. The ones that what I narrowed it down to. Okay, Angel Game. I should probably say the real title for once. An angel dances in the sparks of a bonfire. Post Void, which I've written about. Tunic, which someone else mentioned as well. A Monsters Expedition. I think that's the standout like Sokoban or like, you know, quote unquote normal puzzle game of the decade so far. Not Can of Wormholes. I do think you kind of have to get into to really see what's special about it. You do have to get into the secret stuff, which is really really hard. So that one, I don't know. This is all my personal preference. I'm not going to say that any of this is for everyone. But yeah, Monsters Expedition, Baby Steps, which I just talked about last week a lot. That game I think is really underappreciated among like serious gamers. Someone I follow was like saying that it's horrible or something. I don't know. I didn't play it for a long time because I was a little unsure if I was gonna like it, but it ended up being really great. Dunk Lords? Any Dunk Lords fans in the chat? That's probably the most underrated. Maybe the most underrated. It's like an arcade sports game that just completely flopped on Steam because it's a local multiplayer game, you know, local only multiplayer game, and those games always flop nowadays. Octogram, one of the last Jack Lance games. R.T.3 Search, another one of the last Jack Lance games. Yeah, man, I miss Jack Lance. Soft Kitten Experience, which is my favorite Sylvie game ever. I thought about including other Sylvie games, but I kind of narrowed it down to just that one. And then Hyperdemon, which was on Matthew's list as well. That's my list, just my super personal list.